Hello. Today I'm going to go over probably the most asked question on my channel, whether it's live streams, comments, or just like even hitting me up in game, ask me. And that is how you get this head style. So this head style is from a Halloween pack from the Shadowhunter costume, Crow and Scarecrow. Nah, but I'm just kidding. The most question I get asked is how do I make Flux? So there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different ways and a lot of different methods I know. So I'm going to try to share everything that I can currently think of, and it's going to be listed in order. The video's going to be structured like more early game, then mid game methods, and then late game. Obviously, I do more of the late game methods, which are probably going to be more efficient, and that's how I make even more Flux. But as you work your way up and get to end game, here are some methods that can help you. So if you have, if you want to look into the comments, I will have this completely like laid out. I'll have timestamps to everything in case you want to look at a certain method. And yeah, let's get into the video. Alright, I just want to give a quick tip before I actually get into the video. So, one thing I like to pay mind to a lot when I'm trying to make Flux, I look at what day it is. So like for instance, if it's Monday, you do Shadow Shard farms, which I'll get into in a little bit. If it's Gathering Day, there's a bunch of different things you can do on Gathering Day. Farm delves for resources, farm any resources, even do gardening. Gardening is a great passive Flux for mid to late game, I'd say. If it's gem day, go grind, just go grind, and then sell all your adventure boxes, all your winter chests, a bunch of other stuff. Adventure day, same thing. Get your adventures done. If you have talismans, that's great. Sell those extra Flux. Your adventure boxes, just sell them. Don't open them. The 8 Flux, the 5 glim, it's not worth it. Get the guaranteed Flux from that. If it's Dragon Day and you still want to make Flux while you're waiting on your challenges to pop up, just go and farm Pirate, Deep Sea Dragons, and Candy Dragons if you're early game. That can be a great way to make some instant Flux. It might not be a lot of Flux, but early game, it's still decent getting, if you have Patron, 6,000 Flux per dragon you kill, and they aren't that hard to find. So that can be some instant Flux if you're looking. If it's XP day, go level, sell your Paragon pins. That is just great Flux right there, selling your Paragon pins if you don't need them. Obviously, you should try to get your first crystal ring, try to get a good one, and then after that, just sell them. Honestly, just sell them. Unless you're looking desperately for Nitro, which you could go farm on Tuesdays. You could just sell them and make that instant Flux. And then loot day. Lots of Flux artifacts. Chaos chests are always nice. And then the magic find helps. Another great day to farm on. So yeah, there's my quick tip. So when you're early game, one of the best methods I'd recommend is just go delving. Once you get once you get a little bit of depth charges built up from opening the delve caches, save them up. You don't even have to use your bombs at that point, and then just bomb away. It's going to take a lot, but if you go into Volcanic Vaults, which I am in right now, every single floor will be Volcanic Vaults. It's going to be a little bit laggy because I'm on EU to show this. But Volcanic Vaults, this can be a great way to get Primordial Flames. Right there, some more, some up there. You'll find it everywhere. So just mine all these. And then once you're in other delves, obviously mine Quirkstone. That's a great one to sell. Otherwise, just any of the tier 5 resources, Moonstone, whatever the other ones are called, Sunstone or something. That can be great ways to make some early game Flux. Let's see if I can just mine one more vein real quick. Why not? Just to show off. These veins are pretty big, and it's nice because you can actually just get your bombs this way. You don't have to buy them. You don't have to struggle over getting bombs. Just go into Volcanic Vaults. You can get these portals from farming, I believe, just a regular fire world. So if you have any stacked up, I just throw them in a personal chest, save them for later. This can be a great way to make some early game Flux, though. Another great early game method of making Flux is just while you're trying to do your weekly delves, get your lunar souls, all that. If you're in like a C4 and XP farm and you can't really keep up with the rest of the group or you don't do enough damage, might as well just start farming. Honestly, grab Quirkstone. On NA, I buy so much Quirkstone, it's not even funny. I need it for lodestars, so I'm always buying. I'm sure there's other people that are scouting it and buying it. So that can be a nice way if you just grab that and all these tier 5 resources. Like, I'll show some more once I find some. Well, here's some more Quirkstone. I'd always grab Quirkstone. Quirkstone is so nice. Especially if you're doing it on Tuesdays because you just get more. And this doesn't take your bombs, it just takes your depth charges. So, if you have a bunch of those saved up, that's pretty nice. what's this, Lunarium? This stuff might sell. I don't know too much about it, but might as well collect it while you're here if you have the extra bombs. That's going to be really nice, getting one of these caches, because then there's just, I think that gives ancient gears, right? Yeah, 25 ancient gears. Let's even just see. Why not? Ancient gears. How much is 25 worth? That's 4,000 flux just for finding one. So that's not bad. It's obviously not the best, but that's still pretty nice just to get. Otherwise, Quirkstone. As you can see here, Tuesday, I farmed a lot of Quirkstone on EU. I was just doing my daily, or my weekly delves. And I was doing a daughter moon port, so I was multitasking. And I actually pulled them out, so mountain farms can also be a great way to get some early game flux. Which is pretty reliable too. I wouldn't, not really reliable. The grinding like this, these ores and stuff, especially Quirkstone, is very reliable. But the mountain farms are not. That can be an unreliable way of making a big chunk of flux, like right here. And yeah, another pretty good early game method. Getting some instant flux. It's not the best, but if you just run around, Waterworld, Candoria, I like hunting Blackbeards just because I find them the easiest. Like right here, I've just got into this world at that outpost on the bottom of the map. Just came up here. So these spawn in this biome with the wheel water. They spawn here on these islands that have these rocks, these palm trees. And when you kill them, if you do this on Fridays, I'd recommend you only do this on Fridays, really. You kill them, you'll get 15 fragments, which is 60k flux per. Not per, sorry. 60 or 6k flux per killing like a Blackbeard. So it's pretty useful. That can be a nice way to make some instant flux. It's not a ton of flux, but it is nice. And then if you farm it off Friday, 2k per, which that's still okay. I wouldn't really do it if it's not Fridays. But that can be a way if you just need a little bit of flux to like help boost you. Early game method of farming flux is just as you're grinding dungeons, you know, you realize you have a full inventory. You go to loot collect, right? Alright, let me get all this on my inventory. And boom, you have a bunch of adventure chests, right? Might as well open the chaos chest, why not? So right, you have a bunch of adventure chests. Should you open it? No. Honestly, just put it up. This one doesn't have anything, so I can just put it for 3k. Honestly, if there's none up, go 3k, go 2.5. Those are always good parts to stay around. 4k, alright, I'll go for 39.50, why not? Feel free to undercut, everyone does it, don't get mad at me doing it. There's another 3k, and then, let's see, here's another 5k. So just sell those. You honestly don't want to open them. And then if you get these, your giant winter's chest, that's a lot of flux right there. 6,500 each. Obviously the prices will drop and inflate as time goes on. And here, let me just open these and show you why you shouldn't open them. 10 glim, 10 glim, 5 eyes, and 9 flux. Right there, that was pretty much 10k that I could have made. And I just got 20 glim, 5 eyes, and 9 flux. Sell them, do not open them. Another pretty good early game to mid game. You can even do this late game if you really want to. Just go do your adventure outpost. If you want, go to whatever world you can easily solo and do it there. Otherwise, if you want, go to the highest world you can and do like this one, Candoria. You can do that biome. Any of the ones that are like mine or collect stuff, so like Fae you have to collect for the Primordial Flames. Or not Primordial Flames, sorry, the Primordial, I should know what that biome is called at the bottom right. Where you just collect the bones. Like any of those you can do in any Uber. And that's a lot of, that's a pretty good way of making some, that's a good way of getting XP. And then on top of that you have a chance at Strongboxes, which you can just sell. Honestly, if you open them, it's more of a risk, but you could pull in a costume, which will go for a lot. Or you can just sell it and get the guaranteed flux. So it's really up to you. Just go whatever Uber you can. Just go do the quest. This one's collect shape zone, so let's see if I can pull in a strong box real quick. Right there. And there's a strong box. So very easy, very simple. Now that I have this, how much is it worth? There's a free 11k right there. Why not? But y'all can put it for 10k. And if you want to watch the market on PlayStation North American servers, they usually stay up at that price. 10k. Anything under 10k I usually buy. I don't flip them, I just hoard them, because I like opening them. But yeah, that can be another great way to make some flips. Alright, one more, like, I'd say this is probably the last early game method that I can think of. If you want to dabble into flipping, it's more of like a mid to late game type thing, but if you want to, you can. Let's see, I'd say probably Paragon pins is a safe market, like these, even if you want to buy some cheap ones like 25k. Wait from the rising price, like sometimes they'll shoot up to like 28k. If you buy anything, or if you find anything like pretty cheap, like 21k, 22k, that's just free flux. If you have the flux, buy it, flip it, put it up to like 26k. That's a safe investment. It'll probably sell, and then you'll make just like probably like 20k depending on how many you buy. But that can be a nice way of making some easy flux flipping. Otherwise, some other early game methods. Strongboxes, I like grabbing any strongbox that's under 10k, but often I'll find like stacks of them up for like 2k each, which is ridiculous because that's a lot of flux I can make if I actually sell them. I usually just open them, but if you find cheap strongboxes, that can be a good market. I'm usually scouting it, so you'll have to compete against me, but I don't mind. And then resources can be another one. That one will take more dedication and time to like pay attention. Nitro, I'd say, is more of like a mid-game flip. But if you want like robo salvage, cupcakes, like whatever, if you see any cheap ones up, like 70, like these are pretty cheap. If I were to flip, I could buy those. Obviously, if you're in early game, you won't have 170,000, but buy that, just flip it up to 90 each. Right there, that's a good bit of flux to get, or even throw it up for like 100. Someone might buy it for that much. Otherwise, let's try cupcakes. Cub, not cup. There we go. 390. I mean, that's about an average. If it drops, buy some like cheap like 250s, throw them up for 400. That's a nice flip. Otherwise, yeah, you get the deal. But this is more of an advanced method. I don't really get into flipping too much, so I don't know all the methods for flipping that people go through. But that can be a nice one if you want to dabble into it. Right now I'm going to move on to more of the mid-game methods. You can do this early game, but it'll be more annoying because you're going to be slow. But a good investment would be to pick up a turtle tank. He's pretty cheap. He's always really cheap. 13k, that's not too bad. That's still pretty expensive for him. He'll usually drop around to like 6k even. So pick one of these up, and then go to your character sheet. Just throw on your knight subclass, just for the extra speed, just because turtle tank's slow. And then just walk around and farm the dreadful nitro that no one likes to farm. I don't like doing it. You don't like doing it, but it can be a great way to make some flux because no one likes doing it, so it's expensive. Otherwise, if you see someone calling out for a Gonda trail, feel free to join that. Basically, you'll just follow some guy on Gonda as he runs around to all the nitro veins, and you'll mine it, people will mine it, and then everyone will get the rewards, so it can be a nice way to make some flux. I'd really only do it on Tuesdays just because this is so dreadful and no one likes doing it, so might as well get the extra nitro while you're at it. And then even sell it on days that are not Tuesdays because it will shoot up in price. Maybe not a whole lot, but it will go up when it's not on farm day. So that's also something to keep in mind. So this next 2 points is going to be kind of the same thing. While you're farming, you know, you're sitting here, oh, you completed a tome. What do you know? There's some extra robo salvage you can making passively once you complete all of your extra tomes. So once you're done with everything, just slap on cybernetics. That's just free flux waiting for you. Just let it stack up for a little bit, unless you need it. If you need the robo, it's just a nice way to save up some robo. Otherwise, you can just sell it after you have a bunch saved up. I haven't checked the prices recently on anything, but I used to do like comparisons to all of them, and cybernetics always blew out every other tome for the regular ones. And it's pretty easy to make, so I'd definitely start running that. And then the other point is just like all these extra tomes you have, it'll depend on what you have. But like this, like I could complete this and just throw those up on the market. I could sell my Trove of Wonders every week. I can sell the big bombs. I don't know if people still buy those, but if people buy those, I can sell those. All of these, which you might not have these, the Amperian tomes, but those can make some good. Those can make some nice flux. Sorry. Otherwise, like let's see, not too much else. But it could be a nice way to make some extra flux, like if you sell your mastery pins if you have this, or your extra Trove of Wonder. So yeah, that can be a nice great way to make some flux. Otherwise, just run cybernetics. It's really nice, especially once you do all your... Another pretty good way of making flux is just as you're out casually grinding, you know, you're trying to get your gems and whatnot. Just sell your Paragon pins. If you have a nice C3 ring, C2 ring, and it has the ability you want, you can focus on rings later on, really, and you can just sell all your Paragon pins. Yes, you can get Nitro from them, you can get Glim from them, which is also super nice. Or you can just toss them up on the market, and they go for like somewhere around like 26k upwards of like 30k on a bad day. So if you pull like 7, that's just an instant almost 200k. Otherwise, it's Paragon pins are like just a really good way to make some nice flux mid game. Once you have your ring, of course, I wouldn't really sell them until you have like a nice ring. I wouldn't go, maybe not go for a C4 right away, but if you can get a nice C3, C2, then you're fine. And if you see people calling like they're doing throwing Paragon pins, just join it, grab all that extra Nitro, Glim, all that. Super, super handy. In the final mid-game flux method I'm going to show also goes into end-game farming, gardening. If you want, you can start dabbling into it. This is more of an end-game thing, but if you want to start doing it early on, I mean, the earlier the better, honestly. It's just passive flux waiting for you to get. And it's nice to start building up your concentrated compost and your moonlight tempers. Farming moonlight bulbs is really annoying. I only really do it on Tuesdays. But if you want some like nice reliable flux, I'd go for Gleamstone. It's not too expensive. The eyes might be rough and the crystal might be rough. But once you start getting the concentrated compost and you start doing shadow shard farms, you'll get lots and lots of crystal. Shadow shard farms are great to do on Mondays. I definitely recommend you do that and just sell the shadow shards, keep your crystal how you have it, and it can help you with gardening a lot. Otherwise, later on, more of an end game thing which I'm starting to get into is these, which are very expensive, builderite, and I'm going to move into primordial flames. I don't have a whole lot because I haven't been going for it too hard yet, but I will eventually start going for that pretty hard because that's a lot of flux I can just make passively. And yeah, that can be a really good way to make some flux passively while you're just out there grinding. You have your garden going, and then you just come back, you sell all your stuff. Like, I'll even show it. I have lots of gleam just because I always farm that. So every stack, 50k. That's pretty nice. I think day drop is the same, 4, so even cheaper. I'd go for gleam. It sells really reliably. If I ever put it up, it's always gone by the end of the day. Sometimes it even sells very often, very fast. So that can be a great way to make some flux mid game. I'm going to move on to the end game farming. This is how I make the majority of my flux. So there's 2 ways you can do this really. Just get as much magic find as you can. Most of it's from dragons, and then Patron doubles your magic find. And then like look, there's 2 stellars. That's 5k flux right there. Every stellar loot clicks for 2,500 flux. If you get Shadow 5s, like right here, this is 1,000 flux right there. A Radiant, this is 1,500 flux. So, as you're just grinding, when you have lots of magic find, you can just make tons of flux, like there, Stellar, Radiant, Shadow. Let's see. Dino, I like to do it on Dino, just because it's easy to kill everything. He's decent, he's not the fastest, but he's also not the slowest. He has great hit registration, he has splash damage. There's a nice just a single stellar and then a radiant, and that looked like a triple stellar. But yeah, this can be a really good way. I'd recommend doing this once you have like 7,000, 8,000, and then just everything you get after that is just super nice. If you want to make more flux, go into U10. I'm in U10 right now because I can run full movement speed and as much magic find as I can, which just makes everything so much better because then I can go crazy fast, kill everything, and just make lots of flux while doing it. So this is a great endgame way of making flux. You just have to grind your dragons, which I know a lot of people dread, so there's that. Another thing you can do once you're done grinding, like after a big session of grinding, come on back to your club, you know, get rid of your inventory, save yourself some space, you know, get rid of all your stuff, get rid of this. Alright, and now you can go to your market. Let's see, how many stellar souls, how many pearls of wisdom did I get, right? So you don't really need a lot, so you can just sell it all. You can just outright sell it, honestly. Otherwise, I like to save mine for events where I can like donate it and get lots of event boxes, which should be another nice thing if you want to keep them. But like I have lots of pearls, I have lots of stellars saved up. So like let's just say I want to sell like 100 at a time, maybe you want to sell 50 at a time. There's an extra 11,000 flux I can make every time I'm selling those. Otherwise, let's just look up the pearl market. 120, that's pretty cheap. Otherwise, like 200s, 300s. So that can be some nice passive flux. So if I sold the stack right now, I can make 1.1 mil or 1.5 mil. That's pretty nice just to have like passively building up while I'm stellar farming. Another thing is talismans. So I'll show it because I don't really sell mine either because I don't really need the flux, and I like to just build them up because I think it looks cool having my tab here. But over time, just from grinding, I have all these saved up. I could sell all of these and just make a bunch of flux, especially like the griffins. Those usually go for a decent bit. Let's see, I think rats also go for a lot. Let's see, how much is a rat worth? A rat, 70k, so that's pretty nice. I also want to see a griffin real quick. A griffin, 1,000,000. That is not, I don't think that's right. It's usually around like 200k for griffins, I think, maybe more. I haven't checked the griffin market in years, honestly, so I could be wrong. But yeah, that can be another great way of making some passive flux. Just while you're out grinding sellers and grinding everything you can grind, just sell it all off when you're trying to get a quick chunk of change. I'm over here at the shadowy shadow tower place. Come over to the shadowy market, and if you don't need any of your Titan souls, I mean, why not just throw them all away? Like if you're done getting your weeklies, just toss them. Free flux. If you don't need them, I'd check to make sure you don't need them before you throw them all away. I know for sure I don't, so right there, that's just a big chunk of flux that I get just for doing my weeklies. So that can be nice. You can do that early, mid, and late game. I'd really only do it when you guaranteed don't need your Titan souls though. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, the final few methods that I use a lot for endgame grinding flux is just honestly hoarding event items. Like all these star keys. These are all from Thanksgiving, which these sell like crazy. It's just really nice flux to make. Christmas, more Christmas stuff, and then this was, I don't even remember which event this was, but there's a lot, and then this was the most recent event, which I'm going to save for a few months, and then I'll sell it off. This can be a really good way for endgame players to make a lot of flux if you have patience and you can hoard it long enough. The longer you hoard it, the more it'll go up for. And obviously, if you don't wait until the event comes back, you make some nice flux off of that, and that's how I make a lot of mine. Otherwise, another method is endgame gardening, which I do a lot, and a lot of people do. Just because while you're out grinding, you just have flux waiting for you when you're done. Honestly, just work on this bench right here, get your builder right, get your primordials. If you want to just make some easy flux that you really have to manage, just go for gleam. Otherwise, I'd definitely go into this tab. This is what I'm working on now, which will give me lots of flux while I'm just out grinding. But it's pretty expensive to build right, and the moonlight bulbs, and the moonlight temper. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And then the final method is some endgame flipping. So a really nice way is some golden dragon eggs. I like typing golden, come over here. And then right now there's nothing really good up. If it's in the price range of like 1 to 3 mil, it's usually a decent flip depending on what dragon it is. If it's 1 mil, I usually buy it unless it's something dumb, and then just put up for like an extra 500k, you know, maybe bump it up to 2 mil, whatever you feel comfortable with. If you're smart with eggs and you don't buy like this egg, like why would I buy this to flip it? 4.2 mil for the siege dragon, easy dragon, no point in buying it. Right, but if it's like, let's say there's a, let me find like for example, like let's say there's a puff dragon, like if this was up for like 3 or 4 mil, you could probably easily bump that up to like 8, maybe 7. Preserver's another, not super hard, but it's annoying. Spinner's annoying, ice is annoying, so if you find any of like the annoying dragons cheap, you can bump them up and make a decent bit of flux off of that. Otherwise, some nice dull mounts, like let's just say spike roller, why not? Never mind, let's not say spike roller because there's none up. What about moonsail? There's a couple up. So if you find some of these like cheap, I wouldn't really recommend moonsail. I'm just using it as like a just a show off. Like moonsail, like if you find a different mount that's like 400k and the other one's a mil, it's risky, but you could try to bump it up to like 900k, maybe 800. I wouldn't do it with moonsails because these are always going down in price. This is an unstable market. I have one. I pulled mine. I don't flip these, but I would definitely recommend you stay out of that market. I only know it's bad because I've pulled 2 of these now, and they do not sell. Like I've been holding this one for like 3 weeks now, trying to sell it. So that can be a more risky one. And then the final one, I'd say Nitro. This can get pretty expensive. You find someone putting up some cheap Nitro, bump it up. You'll make a decent bit of flux off it, not a ton unless it's cheap. Like if I find any for like 120, 130, I can bump that up to 150 and sell it all. Just make free flux really. So that can be another great method. I hope all these methods help. I know it's not structured the best and it's going to be jumping around a lot from like method to method, but I just want to give a little insight on how I make my flux. I usually stick to gardening, grinding stellars, and then event items. But other than that, there's a lot of different ways to make flux. It can be hard to like motivate yourself, but again, Quirkstone, that's a really good early game. Primordial Flames, and then gardening late game, flux farming, all that. It can be really good methods of making flux. So yeah, I'll catch y'all later, and thanks for watching.